Hi everyone, I'm Gautam aka the Seeker of Wisdom. I'm a manifestation coach, and in this video, we're going to be talking a little bit about scripting. Now, before I do so, I'd like to remind you guys I am available for coaching, so I offer hourly, monthly, email, and DM coaching. The link will be in the description down below for an FAQ page where you guys will have all the answers you need, and thereafter, you guys can reach out to me via Instagram or email for pricing information and to figure out what plans may be suitable for you. I also have a Facebook group where I upload resources from time to time, as well as you guys can ask me questions anonymously if you wish to do so. I also have a mailing list where I post articles from time to time, as well as my latest offers for coaching. And last but not least, I also have a Manifest Your SP course, which is designed for veterans and beginners alike, which brings you from the beginning of your manifestation journey with regards to your SP to the end of it. It is a self-study course that you guys do, and the neat thing about it is that you guys have access to it for lifetime. So if you purchase it right now, you are getting it for a bargain, because as I update it with more content in the future, I will bump up the prices. And if you purchase it right now, you are getting it for a steal, basically, because all those updates are going to be for free. So yeah, if you guys have any questions regarding that as well, feel free to email me and I'll walk you through it all. So without further ado, guys, let's get to it. So basically, this was a content suggestions about, you guys wanted me to talk about the scripting side of things. So one thing I'll say before I even begin is, yeah, if you guys have any content suggestions, put it down in my Google form for that, rather than like DMing me about it through Facebook or through Instagram, or even like just putting it down in here in the comments. Because the thing is, handling three different platforms, like, it's so easy to lose things in the comments. So like, what I do is I ask people to put it in the form. That way I can easily keep track of all things. And when I have, like, okay, a few people asking me to do the same thing, which is normally the case, I'll make a video on it, like, combining different aspects of it, and like kind of trying to go into depth. So it really makes my life easier, and I would really, really appreciate it if you guys can do that. So yeah, and this was one of those things that people have been asking me, right? How do you do scripting and everything? And I have spoken about it in the past with regards to making your SP parroted back to you, and the letter technique and so on. But I also want to go into depth as to how to do other techniques as well, and a few things that I feel like would be useful for you guys. So yeah, so as I mentioned, the letter technique is one of the my favorite techniques of when it comes to manifesting anything, especially like um, when you want to hear something from the person, be it an SP, who you are romantically attracted to, or just maybe your boss or something. If you want to hear something from them, you can just write a letter, read it every night before you go to bed, and when you wake up, you just feel like, okay, they have said this, and you just kind of go into the day, and before you know it, this will already happen. And my source of this technique is from Neville's story of revision. I've already spoken about it as well. But for those of you who don't know that story, it's basically a mother-in-law who wrote a letter from her daughter-in-law and her grandson. She read it for 8 consecutive days, and she read it until she felt it real. She went to bed, and she got her letter 8 days later, like, exact copies of the letter she wrote from her daughter-in-law and her grandson. And she was not in good terms with them for about 2 years. And so after she tried the technique, within 8 days, she got replies, favorable replies, right? So that's where that technique comes from. Again, I'll link the SP parrot video, so that, like, if you guys want to watch it as well, you guys can go and take a look at it. But that's pretty much the way that works. Alternatively, you can also do it like a journal entry, where you are journaling down a typical day in your life. What does it entail? What do you do? And how do you feel? And who are you with? Who are you spending your day with? And so on, right? So that's one way to go about the whole thing. And yeah, so I would say, like, a lot of people like to do this. A lot of my clients would write down what is it like in their typical day, and what are they doing, what does it entail, like, literally from the moment they wake up all the way till they go back to bed. Okay, like, where are they going to work, who are they with, which area are they living in, right? What's the weather like, what kind of a car they are driving to work, right? Are they working from home? Like, what is the house like? What's the floors like? How does it smell? How do you feel? Make it very descriptive. And what's your quality of life like? What's your work environment like, right? And it doesn't have to do anything with your current set of circumstances. That's the thing. Like, it can just be your ideal life basically. Like, just go ahead, and let loose and just write down everything and anything that comes to your mind. The only thing, like I said for the SP Parrot video, is I would say like keep it to a page long, simply because it's like easy to read. Like, here's the thing, like, I always am a great advocate for like consistency, because you can do, I know people who write like essays, right, which spans pages long. And my immediate concern is, while I'd really appreciate their dedication and how descriptive they can be, it's one of those things where you need a balance, right? Like, can you be reading that like right before you go to bed? For example, let's say you had a hard day at work or something like that, and you're like, you know what, I'm not going to read a 5 page thing today. Like, that's the thing I don't want you guys to feel like, right? So keeping it to a page long keeps it manageable at the end of the day, allowing yourself to be consistent in whatever you do basically. So that's my thing. So yeah, so that's my only advice would be to, when it comes to these kinds of things, like, keep it to a page long, and it should be fine. So yeah, like, so make it descriptive, and write about, like, okay, how would you feel, and write it in present tense, right? Okay, today I did this, it was a great day, and as though like you're reflecting back on that day as though it happened in that day itself. And yeah, how are people interacting with you? How are you feeling? How satisfied are you? How grateful are you for that wonderful life that you are experiencing right now? And as you're writing it, you will start to get the images in your mind as well. So I feel like it's a really a good technique to really get into the state of the wish fulfilled, especially like when you're reading it. What I would say is that before you go to bed, like, read it, and like once you read it, like, that's the last thing you are doing. Like, when I say the last thing, it's literally the last thing. Like, no phones after that, right? Like, before that, sorry, like, so before you even begin reading the letter, that's it. Like, no more phones from there on. No more watching something on the TV, nothing, right? This is the last thing that you're gonna do before you go to bed basically. So by doing that, you're making sure that the content that kind of sticks in your mind is the letter itself, and not some random TikTok video or like Instagram shorts, if you will, right? So make sure of that, and just go to bed. Immediately go to bed thereafter, and like just close your eyes, and like and this is what your mind will be mulling over, if you will, right? So the reason why I say this is because, like, I used to play a lot of video games when I was younger, and one thing was, there was this game called Witcher, right? It's a monster hunting game, and it's based off of the Netflix show was based off the books. The game was also inspired by it, but they are like two separate universes, if anyone is wondering. But anyway, so I would like hunt deers in the game. I would fight like weird monsters, right? And then I would go to bed. I'd have dreams in first person view of like severed deer heads in like a fantasy land. Like, I kid you not, and I'm like, I will wake up and I'm like, oh my goodness. But to be fair, like, I used to binge game back then. Like, I used to like sit down for like 8 hours types of thing, and like go through a gaming session. But yeah, I could never do it now. But yeah, those dreams would come in and would be so vivid, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that to myself. So normally, what I would do is like I would just kind of relax like 10 to 15 minutes before I go to bed, so that I don't have those kinds of dreams, right? So that's one way I would really do it, and use it to your advantage, right? Like, so read things, read your script, and like just like keep repeating it in your mind. And of course, you can like take a picture of it or just type it out as well, and read it on your phone, like as you're going to your commute or during your lunchtime, for example. That works as well. The only thing I would say is, at least write it once, right? I'm not going to ask you to write it every single day, because that's insanity, like, to me. Especially for like a one page thing, like how many pages are you going to use, right? So like, I wouldn't like write it every single day. You can write it if you want to, but like maybe once or twice, or maybe even 3 times is good enough, honestly. But at least write it once, simply because it ingrains it in your mind, and thereafter you guys can read it, the same thing. But just writing it, I feel like it really, really ingrains it in the mind, and it's really effective. Like, I'm super old school about those things. Like, people ask me, hey, can I just type it instead? I was like, sure, but still write it once, at least once. I insist on writing at least once, because I just feel like it really ingrains it in the mind, right? So yeah, as for how many times to read it, there's no fixed way to go about this. That's the thing. When like people ask me, hey, how do I go about it? How many times I should do this? Like they are asking as though it's like a prescription, right? Like, but the thing is, it's not, and the reason is that everyone is so unique that I can't like say, okay, hey, this is going to be effective for you. That is going to be effective for you. So I would definitely encourage you guys to kind of play around with the frequency of it, simply because it's more about you and more about your schedule. Like obviously you read it at least once a day, that's the goal. But if you can read it twice a day, right? Like when you first wake up in the morning, if you can read your script, that would be great. Like if it's the first thing you read, that would be awesome, right? And reading it maybe in the afternoon as well, like quickly glancing it and things like that, like that kind of puts you in the state. So I would say, like, if you can do it first thing in the morning and the last thing before you go to bed, that would be awesome. And the most important thing is, as you're reading it, you feel it real. Like what you can do is you can put your finger and like just go through the words, and that way you're concentrating on the words itself. So that would really help you guys. The other way that I wanted to explore really is mind mapping, right? So this is something that I'm like exploring at the moment, but this really helps in trying to kind of figure out what your like interests are and where you're kind of headed. And like I feel like you can use it to your advantage for manifesting as well, especially like to kind of get your thoughts onto paper and like figuring out the qualities from there. So what I mean is, for those of you who are not aware of mind mapping, essentially it's kind of like you draw circles, you put words in, and you kind of link up arrows, and you are basically connecting ideas. You're basically like writing down things and seeing, okay, like what are my ideas right now, and how does it, like, you're breaking down ideas, you're simplifying it, you're connecting different ideas together, and you're putting it all on paper. You're basically putting whatever is in your mind onto paper. That's essentially how I would describe it. And in the process of doing so, you're going to recognize a few things that may not have been obvious to you, right? So with regards to manifesting, like let's say an SP, when you write a mind map, so it literally, like, you put a circle on the on the middle of the paper, and you write, okay, SP, and then you put an arrow, you're like, okay, qualities, and you put a question mark, and then you just draw another arrow, and then you're like, okay, listing all the qualities, and and things like that, right? Like location, for example. And what you are doing is you are decluttering your mind and putting it on paper, and in the process you're going to see, okay, so these are the things I want to manifest, right? And so based on that, you can then construct your visualization scene, or write a ideal day in life, like I mentioned earlier, and things like that. But what mind mapping does is give you the clarity that you want, right? So you can take a A3 paper for this, because I feel like A4 maybe a little too short for this. So an A3 size would be ideal. So A3 is twice the size as an A4, right? So literally just writing things down that way and linking ideas together. Where are they working? What job are they working? Is it connected to location? For example, what would you like them to prefer? Is there anything different that to what they prefer and who you are as a person right now? Are they a perfect fit for you? Questions like this. You can write down questions, link up concepts, and like you can see how everything kind of comes together using mind mapping techniques, right? So I would definitely encourage you guys to explore that. It really makes your mind think, okay, what am I wanting, and is this necessary? It depends, right? Because some people really like to go into the nitty gritty details. Some people just like to leave it up to the universe to kind of figure it out for them. Specificity is fine, but I would and definitely encourage you guys to not micromanage things too much. Like let it unfold itself and just trust the process as well. So there's a balance for that. I feel like if you are, really going down to the finest of details, okay, like how this person dresses and things like that, like I would say maybe it's not so ideal. Like what I would say is that, like, I would just go general sometimes, right? Like even in scripting, for example, like what I would do is that I would just say, hey, this person dresses well, or this person has a very good fashion sense, and your subconscious mind understands. So those are the types of qualities you want to pick out from your mind mapping. Is, okay, I want this person to be XYZ. because you may not realize that these are the things that you want, but as you're mind mapping, you're going to realize, hey, okay, so this is what I actually want. And that's what it's going to give. It's going to make you understand about your thoughts, and more importantly, your preferences better, right? So mind mapping really really helps. I have advised people on career related stuff to do a mind map and to kind of figure out, okay, where do they want to go and everything like that, right? So that really really helps. And yeah guys, so that's about it for scripting. And another thing I would say is that you can also write down your affirmations as well in a kind of scripting way. This normally what I would do is I would write them morning, noon and night, like 10 minutes a day. And that's about it, honestly. So like I would use a specific colored pen, like for example I use green for my scripting stuff. So you guys can always use a specific colored pen and use it just for the purpose of writing down your manifestation. It's none. There's no significance behind it. It's more like a like a personal preference for me at this point. It's more of a tradition for me. And I kind of use it like a placebo, right? Okay, this is like my magic wand, so I'm gonna write my things, which is gonna come true. And that's the kind of way you can go about it. And also, I want to say this, right? Like, what works for one area of your life may not work for another. So definitely like feel free to experiment with it and see how you fare in that area. Kind of see like, okay, am I doing this well? Am I feeling better about this? Am I living in the end, and so on? And take it from there. Take it one step at a time. And yeah, so that's one way to go about it. The other thing I think a lot of people ask is, hey, do I script multiple scenes and read them every night, or how does that work if I have multiple things I want to do? And as Neville would say, combine them. Make a scene so big that it encompasses everything, right? Maybe you want your parents to be happy with the SP of your choice, for example, and you want to be blissfully married and you want to have your dream job. Cram it all into one scene. So maybe your parents are visiting you in your SP, and you just came back from your ideal job, and you're telling them how great your job is, and your parents are so proud of you and your SP. Maybe your dad is talking and having so much fun with your SP, for example. I'm talking about this from like a lady's perspective, because most of my clients are ladies, and like a lot of my audience from demographics are ladies. But again, it's the same for guys as well, right? And yeah, so that's how it works. And you just kind of think about it from that perspective, and you just write it down. And so you are encompassing everything into a single script, and you're just reading, right? And while that may seem like, well, isn't that like too much in to cram in one page, you can go maybe like a page and a half. Again, like, you don't want it to be too long that it becomes a chore. Like, that's the main thing. But other than that, like, as long as it resonates with you, as long as it's decent length that you can read it every night before you go to bed, it's fine. So that's it, guys. So that's all from me. So let me know if you guys have any questions about this, and I'll definitely answer them in the comments. If this video resonated with you, be sure to drop a like. Turn on the bell notification so that you guys will know when I upload a new video every single week. Be sure to subscribe, as it goes a long way for me. So guys, thank you for watching. Stay safe and happy manifesting. Peace.